Hello, everyone. Welcome to another 2017 Year in Review podcast here on pwponderings.com. This time around, we are looking at AAW. And I, of course, could not do this alone. I'm Chris T, the web admin. Join me, I believe this is the first time, Derek, that we have spoken on a podcast, is our AAW analyst. So, Derek, how are you doing, man?
Well, this is actually the second AAW podcast I've ever done. Total, the last one, which resulted in at least one death threat due to some comments I made. But, beyond that, Chris, I'm doing great. How about you?
Well, doing well. That is the wacky world that we live in. We have some very passionate fans, and we have all these opinions, and it's about something we love. So death
Vote for
threats
two
are
death threats.
they are what they are. That's how that
Two.
works. Also joined by Qumar, who has done a ton of live tweeting of AAW results. Qumar, you and I have actually met in person like 100 years ago. The last time I was in
Yeah, it felt like it.
Chicago. But how are you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Chris. Derek, great to be with you guys. Talk about AAW.
Yeah, AEW doing a lot of great stuff in 2017, and we're going to take a look down that memory lane. And I think a fitting place for it to start actually is that growth. In 2017, they have done about a total of 22 shows. They expanded into LaSalle, a different venue, on top of all the other venues that they have run in. And, Derek, I'm going to go to you first. That, to me, has been one of the major stories of AEW.
Oh, absolutely. I first started watching AAW at a January 2011 show. That was my very first one. And they had trouble selling out the Berwyn Eagles Club. Maybe they would sell it out for Windy City Classic whenever that came around in November, not December. And but you'd have like maybe 200, 250 fans in that little building. But now they've expanded to LaSalle, they've expanded to Logan Square, they've expanded to Bourbon Street, and they've got these bigger venues all around. LaSalle, I think, holds 350 or 400 people, something ridiculous like that. And the fact that they're running 22 shows now as opposed to like 10 or 12 like they used to, that in and of itself speaks to the kind of vision they have for the company. I guess phase one of their master plan was to make this a quote unquote super indie, which they pulled off successfully starting in November 2015 when Sami Callihan came back and kicked Eddie Kingston in the face. Sorry, brother. And that was also the introduction of the Lucha talent, which we will get to later down the line. And from that point forward, they've been a steam train just rolling down the tracks, booking everybody from the West Coast to the East Coast, flying in 10, 12, 14 talents or something ridiculous, as well as having all the guys drive down from Canada up from Texas or from Georgia or wherever they're from. I don't even know. That's probably absolutely wrong. But now they add a cherry on top of that and they add 8 shows a year. And these aren't even like throwaway shows. You're paying $15 to get in, but you're seeing main events like Penta versus Ray Phoenix. And tomorrow we have a show coming up in LaSalle, which I unfortunately can't make, but they're doing Matt Riddle versus Sami Callihan for the first time ever, and ACH versus Ray Phoenix for the championship. So these aren't throwaway filler or B shows, as some like to call them. And while I do call the Chicagoland shows the quote-unquote main roster shows, there's plenty of main roster on these LaSalle shows as well, and there's plenty of reason for anybody to go out of their way to see these shows, because they have 10 matches booked tomorrow with, I think, maybe 2 more to be booked, 1 more to be booked. It's crazy, so...
Kamar, for you, for like the Berwyn shows or the Bourbon Street shows, how has the expansion in AEW looked from your perspective?
Well, in my opinion, I actually felt when Derek was mentioning like the times when AAW was selling out the Berwyn Eagles Club, that they had outgrown it during that era where they were consistently selling out Berwyn. They had outgrown that building, and it's taken a little bit of time to find not only the right place, but to come to that realization that yes, we are that big company. Yes, we need a bigger venue. Yes, we need to get more and more people into our shows. And I think they did a good job of that in 2017. Obviously, with the expansion to LaSalle, that has provided new opportunities for wrestlers and for fans to see these athletes in matches they probably weren't used to seeing in that area. And then obviously Bourbon Street has slowly become their new home, and now it is their new home. And then the Logan Square Auditorium providing someplace in the city proper of Chicago for fans wrestling, AAW wrestling in that market, as opposed to being in the suburban area, the south suburban area like Berwyn and Marionette Park, where Bourbon Street is. But they also hit on a new location in 2017 in April for their Epic show, which was the Joe's Live venue in Rosemont, which is a little bit closer to me, which I obviously appreciated. But it was your atypical wrestling venue. It's not like a bar like Bourbon Street is, or a bingo hall in the sense of what the Eagles Club is, but it was a concert venue, and the way that it was set up, the feel to it, and the show itself was something unique and different. And I hope to have that opportunity happen again for AAW, because I think that's something that will invigorate the fan base. And if they can put on a good product, fans will be more willing to come out again and again to those type of shows. But I felt that that show in April in Rosemont was something that could prove to be something that AEW should use down the line.
When you factor in how many fans they drew that show to, I think it was like 750 or 760 or something wild and crazy like that. Plus, you had a full bar, you had a full food option, which you don't really have at Logan Square, and plus it was just a beautiful venue with a giant stage, with different seating setups and all that sort of stuff, different sight lines everywhere you went, and plus you had that card. I mean, there was just a lot going for that show in particular that makes me almost want to egg on AAW a little bit on Twitter and say, come on, guys, try something different this year. Try something different next year. Maybe book a venue that holds 800 or 900 people instead of just your 600 or 700. Maybe go for that extra 100 or 200 people. Give us something different. Give us something in a different suburb, maybe. Give us just something different. I want to see them try.
My lack of knowledge of the I guess Chicago geographical area. Do you have any suggestions that you could come up with?
One suggestion I've always had is the Cicero Stadium, which is right off the CTA's Pink Line in Cicero, Illinois, which is right next to Berwyn and Chicago. It's kind of sandwiched in between there. But I've actually been to that stadium for a Lucha show, which I don't want to talk about any more beyond this because it was that bad, and I paid like $40 to get in. But you've got bleachers on both sides, and the bleachers alone hold maybe 6, 7, 800 people. And then you could fit everybody on the floor, maybe get another 300 or 400 people there. You're looking at 1,000 plus, if I'm calculating this correctly. And I don't think AAW's ever gone that ambitious for a show, although they did have plans for a show at what theater was that they had plans for, Qumar?
I think it's the Olympic Theater on Cermak.
Yeah, that's correct. They were planning to run the Olympic Theater on Cermak before plans fell through with that for whatever reason. But I just want to see them go bigger or go at 50 or 100 people in the crowd and just give fans an experience that they'll never be able to forget. Sort of like the Blind Pig is doing on Powerbomb TV.
Yeah, it's interesting to think that just a few years ago, just adding, just doing, maybe 13 to 14 shows and then just adding this, what it's really done for them. Qumar, do you see them focusing more on LaSalle in 2018 or kind of just keeping it the way it is right now?
No, LaSalle is I would say LaSalle is a very integral part of the promotion in general. They are, as Derek said, they're not treating it like B shows or in LaSalle. They're putting out quality shows and quality matches, and they did that in 2017. They used LaSalle as their breeding ground for Jim Lynam Memorial Tournament qualifying matches. They used it as the area to qualify wrestlers for the women's title that they established in 2017. They put some of their main roster guys like Sammy, they put their champions there. Sammy Callahan, they put Phoenix there, they put Penta there. They did not treat it like, lesser shows. And they did they did provide fans the opportunity to meet some of your former WWE stars, the likes of Bob Holly, for example. They did whatever they could to make LaSalle shows to be big, and they're not going to treat them as less than. They realize there is a definite geographical difference. People are not going to, from the city proper or from the surrounding Chicagoland metropolitan area, are not going to drive the hour and a half or 2 hours it's going to take to get to LaSalle. But they realize that LaSalle fan base does deserve proper wrestling, and AAW is not going to deprive them of that. And they've done a great job in 2017, and they're definitely going to be doing that in 2018.
If I could add one thing, and I'm not sure if you mentioned this, I'm pretty sure you did not, but they crowned their first ever women's champion at LaSalle on December 2nd at Legacy, and
Right.
that's Jessica Havoc. So I think it's a very important venue for them, that LaSalle building, and the fact that they have such legacy, pardon the pun, in that venue, previously having been a Dreamwave venue for about 5 or 6 years there, which put on some great shows of their own. I think that only adds to the history and what they have going on over there.
And what do you think? What do you guys think about Bourbon Street? I mean, is that still going to be kind of a place they only go to? I mean, and you look at, I mean, looking at 2017, looking down all the shows that they've done, clearly they go there sparingly, as as one would do when it comes to touring. So, what do you guys think of that?
Well, I'll say this about Bourbon Street. I think they are making that their new home in 2018. Bourbon Street is going to be their pillar location for 2018. That and Logan Square Auditorium. Those are going to be their two spots. Political issues have made the Berwyn Eagles Club an untenable situation of no part on AAW's. They tried to work it out in the past. They actually had left Berwyn Eagles Club in the past and only sparingly came back there, but recent issues in 2017 have made the situation untenable, and I think for both sides it's best that they go their own ways, because as I mentioned earlier, AAW had outgrown the Berwyn Eagles Club years ago, and while I think for nostalgia reasons it's nice to maybe run there once a year, if you're trying to have an expansive fan base go to your shows, the only way to do that is to go to venues that can hold more people. And you're only hamstrung when you can only fit in 250 in the Berwyn Eagles Club, whereas you can fit in up to 800 if you open up everything at Bourbon Street, or you can fit in 400 or 500, however many you can at Logan Square. So, and it's in the city proper. It's close to public transportation. I think it only helps that you're making those two venues, Bourbon Street and Logan Square in the Chicagoland area, your two pillar locations. And I think that's going to help AAW in 2018 once those sites are established, because they've used those shows a lot over the last few years. Once you have those familiar locations, it's only going to help.
I don't know how hot a take it is, but it's certainly a take. I think that Logan Square itself is too small for them. I think it's a pretty looking venue, but the fact that it's in the city proper, you could probably get at least 200 or 300 more people in the city of Chicago who want to go to a wrestling show on a Saturday. That's just my take.
So, speaking of, Qumar, did you have a comment?
No.
Okay.
What was
I heard a breath. I heard him go, huh, and it sounded like he wanted to say something. But, I mean, speaking of things that they are doing to fill in these venues, we're talking about some of the major storylines going on in 2017. And one of them being, and this is going to tie into another topic that I was interested to hear your thoughts on, is that, so in 2016, we saw the influx of the Lucha Underground talent, for lack of a better term. Yes, they're from AAA, I know, all that stuff. But when you're talking about Ray Phoenix or Pentagon Jr., because I'm just not going to say Penta L0M 1,000 times. One of the main storylines, Derek, that you brought up was Phoenix's chase against Sami Callihan, culminating at the fighting moment for the title. So, starting off with you, how would you give it if you had to grade it? And obviously, this kind of ties into the later part of 2016, but for all of 2017, how would you grade their use of those talents and your thoughts on this main storyline?
If I had to give a grade to the Phoenix and Sammy Callahan thing, I'd probably give it an A minus or maybe a B plus because I think they relied a little too heavily on Sammy swiping Phoenix's mask for heat because he did it like 3 or 4 times. By like the third or fourth time, I was a bit sick of it, and I sort of knew it was going to end in the mask versus championship Luchas de Apuestas match, which of course Phoenix was going to win because he wasn't going to lose his mask. That kind of ended anticlimactically, a little bit for me at least. Um, but it was still good stuff. You know, it was so consistent in the fact that they really kept up with it at both the LaSalle shows and the Chicago shows. Really speaks to the vision they had for that story in and of itself. And then Pentagon, I think, had kind of an up and down year. You know, he was Heritage Champion. He had a very memorable match with ACH in the Berwyn Eagles Club in March, I believe it was. And then he dropped the championship. Was it the ACH he dropped the championship?
Yeah, he lost ACH in March. Yeah.
In March, that was the one. And he had a main event with Fox at Joe's in in Rosemont, and he had a very good match with his brother Phoenix at the Jim Lynam Memorial Tournament against Scarlett and Graves, Wentz and Xavier. But beyond that, there wasn't really much memorable about it beyond that. I don't know. Qumar, what do you think about that?
Well, obviously, the Lucha Brothers themselves have been not only a huge boon for AAW because they've brought in a new audience, and anytime that you can expand your fan base to include people that have not seen your product before, it's always a good thing. And obviously, their usage of both Penta and Phoenix has been one of the positive things that AAW has had in 2017, and you see that obviously when we brought up the Callahan Phoenix rivalry that paid off with Phoenix becoming the champion, and the crowd reaction was always something I paid a lot of attention to whenever I was at these shows when Sammy was champion, because I always feel like you have to have somebody who was holding a title as a heel, the main champion or your secondary champion. But I felt that payoff was going to be big, whether it was going to be Penta or Phoenix. And when Phoenix won it, obviously it was not there, but I knew that it had that special vibe that when Phoenix had that title, it was something big for AAW. My hope is going to 2018 that he will be challenged and will be given challenges that will make him not only a stronger character and a more invested wrestler for the fans, but I feel like will draw more people in the same fashion that when they were first introduced to AAW back in 2016, that them being on top of the company will do the same thing in 2018.
And we can intersperse that also with John Morrison, who was used I want to say roughly at least twice, right? Sound correct?
Yeah,
Him,
yeah.
him and Brian Cage, yeah, they were both used a couple times.
Yes, and Brian Cage, yes, who is now an Impact Wrestling guy apparently.
Yes, that was Congo Kong who was on a couple shows, or at least one show from last year. So it's weird how many guys the AAW has used or has employed on their main roster that have gone on to bigger and better things in 2017 alone.
Yeah, it speaks to the talent, and obviously what Danny Daniels has done as far as booking talent and helping that talent expand their own opportunities outside of AAW. Obviously, first and foremost, in my mind, is Heidi Lovelace, who's now Ruby Riott on WWE. She first female to win a championship, the Heritage title. She meant a lot to that company. She main evented the show. She is an incredible talent and has, like I said, I can't express how much she meant to that company. And along those same lines, Silas Young, when he left earlier in the year in January, when he fought Drew Galloway, in January, those two in particular were two of the wrestlers that AAW. Silas was AAW for a long stretch of time during this decade, and the same can be said for Heidi. She had done a lot, not only for women's wrestling in AAW and but also had great intergender matches in AAW.
If I may cut you off real quick, I'm sorry to cut you off, but Kyle O'Reilly meant a lot to AAW fans in the early 2010s, at least as so far as when I first started going in 2011, 2012. He had a lot of matches on those cards, early in the cards, low card matches, and he just killed himself every single time. And even though his bookings were more sparing over the years, more few and far between, I think he did mean a lot to the overall fabric of AAW, and I think he has to thank AAW for where he is now, at least, for giving him that booking once a month, driving up from St. Louis with Davey Richards and Tony Kozina and all those guys.
Absolutely, and O'Reilly himself had a couple of standout matches. I remember the homecoming show in March. He fought against Zack Sabre Jr. I mean, you had two guys that are just kicking like relentlessly. My body could feel that those kicks, and then you also when O'Reilly and Fish teamed together to face War Machine in June at Bourbon Street for Killers Among Us. You have those two teams that are now under WWE's umbrella, and it's amazing to think that 8 months ago they were in a semi-main in AAW. That goes to show obviously the talent that AAW acquires, not just as part of their own main roster, but also for a handful of opportunities over the course of the year that they've gone on to some incredible things.
I mean, you're looking at a Donovan Dijak also, War Machine, and like you mentioned. I mean, I think obviously the biggest name in there, no longer able to compete there, is Silas Young. Drew Galloway too was a major part at some point, not in 2017 obviously, but had a big role to play in AAW at certain points. With that said, though, do you guys feel, and I guess Derek, I'll go to you first because you do a lot of really great previews of their shows for us at PW Ponderings. That influx of talent that now is gone for various reasons, no longer able to be used, either because they're in WWE or Impact or with Ring of Honor. One of the guys that you talked about coming in and filling one of those spots at least was David Starr, and then the creation of the wrestling stable. So, what are your thoughts on him or any other talents that you think have kind of filled those spaces?
Well, I had never really seen much of David Starr beyond his work with the Juicy Product, him and JT Dunn back in the day. They used to wrestle for, I think, CZW and for Beyond and all that. And they had a really good tag team that actually came over once from those promotions to LaSalle for Dreamwave. And that's where I first ever saw David Starr. And I knew he had something about him that was intangible and made me connect with what he was doing immediately. But I never saw it outside of a tag team context. So when he first came in to AAW in May, and he came in all clean shaven and not really looking like he does now, but he just captured my attention again from the front row all the way to the back where I stood for his match. There's just something about him, from the promo, from the work he does with his friend Giancarlo. To you, Giancarlo, if you're listening. All the way down to his work inside the ring and the way he takes care of his fans outside the ring. He's the entire package. He's what AAW absolutely looks for in a talent as far as effort is concerned. And he worked his way up the card, too. I'm not sure what position his match was on the card in May, but I think it was maybe third. And then he's working his way up the card, and he's inserting himself into main events by October/November. And now he's one of the main guys going. Wrestling itself is probably the main stable outside of the Ohio is for Killers/Killer Cult. And they've done all this in, I would say, was it 6 months, 7 months? So to have this guy come in and be so dynamic a performer and dynamic a presence speaks not only to Starr, but Danny Daniels, who kind of pulled him out there and said, hey, I want to give you the ball. Let's run with it.
Yeah, David Starr has had a tremendous 2017. The wrestling group in itself is something that I'm intrigued to see how it progresses in 2018. I'll second everything you said about David Starr. Tremendous work ethic, tremendous character, tremendous storyline. His work with Eddie Kingston it's incredible how you can put two guys together and make magic, and that's what those two did in 2017. And now with Eddie sort of under his wing, now forcibly under his wing, to start off 2018, it's not only entertaining and enjoyable, but it's refreshing because it's something new, but something with something old with a new take, new difference. And I love David Starr in AAW, and like Derek said, he's captivating no matter if you're in the front row or if you're all the way, if you're at Bourbon Street or Logan Square, you're over by the bar. He draws your attention, and that's something that not many wrestlers can say that they do, but David Starr definitely does.
Kingston and Starr are the new Odd Couple, sort of. I mean, if you've ever seen the original Odd Couple or the, God forbid, the movies that have come out in recent-ish years, 20 years ago, I don't know. I think it was 20 years ago, so it's not recent, but I'm showing my age here. But just their dynamic and their chemistry together really speaks to opposites attracting. You've got Kingston, who's this old grump, this veteran who's kind of cagey and aging, and he's got, banged up body parts. He's got a bum neck. His back's sore all the time. He wears an arm sleeve. He doesn't really dress like a wrestler anymore. He's a little bit out of shape. Sorry, Eddie. And then you've got David Starr, who comes in looking like $1,000,000. He's, ladies' man, playboy. He's like the exact genetic opposite of Kingston, but you could tell they enjoy working together and they make it work, and they're on all the time. If you go talk to them at the merch table, David Starr is on. If you go sit down in your seat, you grab a bag of popcorn and you watch a Kingston match or you watch David Starr's match, they're on. If they're up there in the balcony where Qumar is, I think, taking results, or where the commentators are, where everybody from AAW usually populates, if they think the cameras are not on them, they're still on. Like, no matter when you catch these guys, they're working shtick, they're working an angle, and they're doing it hilariously. So I would really suggest checking out the most recent AAW show from the 20th of January, I think it was, The Art of War. And there's at least 2 or 3 great segments featuring Starr and Kingston.
Are there any other, I guess, major storylines that happened throughout 2017 that kind of come to mind in terms of what kind of rounded out AEW's storylines or major happenings for either of you?
I would say the continued growth of the Jim Lynam Memorial Tournament. I mean, that wasn't a year-long storyline or anything, but the fact of doing both shows in the Berwyn Eagles Club really spoke to what they were trying to accomplish with it. It spoke to the fact that they wanted to be a bit more artful with it and really give a nice aesthetic and a feel to those shows that didn't exist, I think, in the previous year when the first show was held at Bourbon Street. And it was just an overall great tribute to Jim. You had Dan Lawrence coming out for the first show and paying his respects to the man who once owned that place, who once ran that place, Jim Lynam. So for me, going to those tournament shows every single year is just the highlight of my year as far as AAW is concerned, because those are the best shows. They always have the most unique tournament setup. And like last year, we had Callahan getting squashed in 33 seconds by Jeff Cobb, which nobody saw coming. You had a new star like Myron Reed increasing his star presence and his star value with a great match against Michael Elgin. And you had like a DJZ versus an ACH match, which opened the show and was only 6.5 minutes, but had all the fans on their feet chanting, "This is awesome." So no matter what you do with that tournament, I think it's money. And yeah, that'd probably be my answer.
AEW we touched on it on the people that have had impacts in the company for long stretches of time, and there were 2 people in particular that made surprise unannounced appearances later in 2017. The first one being Josh Alexander, who sort of the discussion was Jimmy Jacobs, his recent release from WWE, that everybody thought Jimmy Jacobs was going to be the guy to accept the open challenge for Ray Phoenix's AEW championship, and it turned out to be Josh Alexander. And seeing him return, both he and Ethan Page, both as a tag team and as singles competitors, did a great job over the last few years in making AEW an important brand. And to see Josh back in the build in Berwyn and to be in the main event match was huge. And then also seeing Jimmy Jacobs back in AAW, a company that he helped build from its earliest days, was also a cool sight to see. So those surprises that always end up happening in AAW, there's always some sort of surprise that happens later in the year. It's happened in years past, and it's good to see those surprises still come to fruition in 2017 as well. And I'm hopeful for some similar surprises in 2018. We'll see what they have in store for that.
For 2017, I mean, we put this out there on Twitter, and some of the responses that you guys, our listeners, came to us with in terms of surprises: DJZ diving off the balcony onto Pentagon Jr., and then Ray Phoenix winning the title, which, as you guys mentioned, a culmination of a really good feud going on in AAW. One of the other things that I want to touch on, and Qumar, will go to you first on this. For me, 2017, I mean, AAW does some great production when it comes to their videos that they put out there, the trailers. I put them right up there with kind of the same excitement I get when a PWG trailer comes out. For me, something that, I don't believe either of you have mentioned it yet, I apologize if you guys have, was kind of a slow build right now, though, for Matt Fitchett, giving him singles bouts against guys like ACH, and really letting him kind of go out there and show, like, while yes, he is, well, I mean, a huge part of one of the tag teams that kind of excuse me, that has a major part in AAW, but I think him and Davey Vega have been able to really showcase themselves in singles matches. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. I think that whole storyline, I think it shows how much we did not touch on it, how great of a storyline it was, that it was underrated, in my opinion. The Vega Fitchett split and then return that happened in 2017. Fitchett's desire, as you mentioned, to go at it on his own, and Vega's insistence on helping him and proving to be right, that eventually led them to regaining the tag team championships in AAW and the besties in the world. They have a great entrance, Savage Garden. How can you not sing along with them when they come out? It happens at every show when they come out. And for the tag team division, that I felt was up and down due to injuries and whatnot, I feel now with the besties regaining the tag titles and defending them, it's sort of kept everything in a good direction. And I hope that they hold those titles for a good period of time into 2018, because I would like to see the tag team division improve. I felt that was something, one of the downsides of AAW in 2017. It could have been better.
Isn't Vega hurt?
I'm sorry?
Didn't Davey Vega injure his leg in the last match?
Yeah, Vega had an injury in the last show, but a very scary injury at that. But going out of 2017 and into 2018, I felt having the titles on the besties was a huge thing. And now with Vega being hurt, does cast a little bit of an issue, but it did happen earlier in 2017 with Jake and Dave Chris. There were injuries there that saw them having to give up those titles too. And we saw the young tag team, Desmond Xavier and I'm blanking on the name.
Zachary Wentz.
Zachary. Wentz and Xavier, those two kids are incredible young talents. And I don't know if there are enough tag teams in AAW like them, but they provide a little bit of a burst of youthful exuberance that kind of like Myron Reed does in singles talent, and Paco in some sense. I just would like to see more of that in the tag team division in 2018 because of that.
And if I could speak on that real quick, I want everybody to check out the last show, Windy City Classic 13. Watch out for that opener between Scarlett and Graves and Swerve in Our Glory, as they call them, Shane Strickland and Keith Lee. That is one white hot tag team match right there, and that was my favorite of the entire show. Like I think it was the most fluid, the most consistent. It had the most fun spots, and I think if anyone were to take the titles off the injured Vega, get well soon, Davey, and Matt Fitchett, I think it should be Shane Strickland and Keith Lee, who have sort of been beating around that bush since last October, November, during one of the last LaSalle shows when they first had their title shot.
Yeah, and that match got injured on was in the semi-main against both Lee and Strickland. So maybe they can rekindle that if once Davey gets fully healthy. Maybe we'll see that as a rematch down the line.
What I would like to see happen, and they sort of held off on this toward the middle of last year, 2017, but they were starting to push, as Chris said, they were starting to push Vega, not Vega, they were starting to push Fitchett heavily in singles competition. He was facing guys like Zack Sabre Jr. in matches that were really kind of blowaway stuff, and then they stopped short, and for whatever reason, they ended the tension between Vega and Fitchett, and they paired them back up as the besties in the world, and now they're friends again, and everything's all great. But I would like to see Fitchett again branch out into singles territory, and maybe actually go through with the feud between Vega and Fitchett once Vega's all healed up and comes back.
Yeah, no, I think it could be. Sorry, it could be intriguing to see. Yeah, I mean the match with Zack Sabre Jr. I liked a lot. And the same with Matt Riddle. I just thought that it was able to showcase Fitchett in a different light than we had seen in recent moments from him. Because obviously, in AAW, he is obviously much more well known as a tag team. I think I want to say he had another singles match.
I'm looking through my notes here.
Actually, you know what? I'm thinking of a match he had with Kyle O'Reilly, but it was not in AAW. So that's it. Yeah. Anyway, this is not in AAW. He might have had another one in AAW, but that's not what I was thinking of. But anyway, in terms of that, so there's also, like I said, I think this kind of flows into the use of just younger talent, and something that Dylan Waco and myself and Rich Saccone on the newscast, we seem to cover that. And if there's something that we mention a lot of throughout the year of 2017, it was that every time we did reports on the AAW results, just their usage of younger talents and how they're integrating them into their storylines. We have all felt that AAW has done that. Probably one of the best examples of it throughout all of the indie wrestling scene. Derek, I mean, you do some fantastic previews of these shows, like I said, for our website. What is your stance on that? Why is AAW able to do that? Is this a vision that Danny Daniels has had and has carried out well, or any other thoughts that you have on it, actually?
Well, if you want my genuine take on it, I think that Danny enjoys being a star maker. He enjoys you see the banners in the background of the set they have there, which has Shane Hollister, Heidi Lovelace, Jerry Lynn, Tyler Black, Jimmy Jacobs, and so on and so forth. Danny himself more or less made those guys. He gave them one of their first big breaks, if not their first big breaks, and I think he enjoys that feeling. So now you've got a young crop of guys that are considering AAW their home. I talked to Desmond Xavier, and he considers Chicago one of his new homes. Myron Reed, who is getting a lot of reps as well. You've got guys like Kurt Stallion, who are putting in time, Connor Braxton, Jake Something, who are both bigger guys, and they have a little bit of ways to go, but you could see that there's really something there, some raw talent there that could really be developed. And I think loading up on that sort of talent that is like 25, 26 or under, not a very bad idea, to be honest with you, because odds are one or two of them are going to move up the ranks and take WWE by storm eventually. And then over on the women's side of things, you've got Jessica Havoc, who's always a threat to move on up to either Impact or maybe even a WWE someday eventually. You've got Kylie Ray, who's been tearing it up on the independent scene around Chicago and in California and all around the country. And she's just plainly stated she's NXT bound. And you've got Scarlett Bordeaux, who's doing Stardom now. She's doing Stardom matches, which is incredible. Uh, so even on that side of the ball, you've got, I don't want to say younger talent because some of these people are in their mid to late 20s, but lesser known, lesser used talent. And if I could speak on the fact that there's so many people out there who are local to Chicago or local to the Midwest that Danny isn't using yet. You've got guys like Brian Pillman II, who's only maybe 5 or 10 matches into his independent wrestling career, but he's far and away just one of the best looking, most talented young guys out there, rookies out there at only 24 years old. Also at 24 years old is a guy named Pat Monix, who's been killing it with I Candy Elliott down at IWA Mid South and Freelance, where they've had tag team success in both promotions. Pat's a good-looking kid. Like, he's got one of the best. Maybe this sounds weird. He's got one of the best looks to him, one of the best bodies on him. He's just a natural inside the ring as well. So you've got a lot of talent out there that I would like to see in AAW, and you've got a lot of talent there on the cards as well that are making up 2 or 3 matches these days, as opposed to just the one. And if you go to LaSalle, they've got maybe 4 or 5 matches that have that younger talent in there as well. And my rant is over. Sorry.
No, it's something, like I said, that Dylan and we've talked about multiple times. And Qumar, a lot of these students, I mean, they're coming out of St. Louis from Elgin's camp. They're coming out of Rockstar Pro Academy. Just a lot of places. What are your thoughts on some of the younger talents coming up? I will say, though, that I've heard criticisms of this, too, in the sense of, look, AAW, as mentioned before, as they are building up to become a super indie, maybe in the past have not utilized young talents as well as they should have. So do you think this is making up for it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say in the past they have been a little bit slow to it, but I don't think they've completely disregarded it. I know Danny's very protective of his product, and he doesn't want young talent that is spread around too much in the Chicagoland area, and that's well within his right. It's his company, and it's his events that he's putting on. But I think he's done a great job of utilizing that sort of young talent that both Derek and you have mentioned. Myron Reed comes to mind, obviously, who's come up from St. Louis and has blown everybody away. The first time I saw him wasn't even at an AAW event. It was at the game show when he fought against Elgin. And it was when Elgin had mentioned how young he was, it just blew me away. And he has continually improved each time he has come out to AAW. But then also you have examples like Vega and ACH, guys that have been in AAW for many, many years, but started out there and have been improving to championship to one champion AAW that have been there for years. So I wouldn't say AAW is completely ignored the youth aspect. It's just they've been doing it for years, but in a much smaller scale. They have built in guys that have been there for years, and they're slowly integrating the younger talents into their company. It's just more at a glacial pace than at other companies, other independent companies around the country. But they are doing a much better job than they have been in recent past years of integrating that younger talent into their roster.
I have to say, I just find it mind-blowing that Prince Mustafa Ali was working both freelance as their champion and AAW at the same time, considering how exclusive AAW likes to keep its talents and such. So that's just one thing I like to point out.
I mean, hey,
sure.
he was just on, the 25th anniversary of Raw, right? Or was that a
Yeah.
dark match? I don't remember.
It was a dark match, but still,
okay.
I mean, he's still a main member of the WWE Cruiserweight division. He is still beloved by everybody that attends Chicago independent wrestling over these past few years, and we're really proud of what Mustafa has done in AAW and in other companies, other independent companies in Chicagoland area, and it's just a testament of how great of a talent he is that he's had that opportunity to grow in WWE.
Little hidden gem, if I can. Seek out the AAW Summer Sizzler charity show. There's a match between Ali and Shane Hollister for the championship in the main event, which is an absolute hoot. So that's my recommendation. I forget which year.
So before we get out of here, guys, let's get some fun little predictions for 2018 out there. Derek, I'll go to you first. What do you think is going to happen? And actually, kind of to tie that in, MVP of 2017 in AAW.
I was thinking about this a lot, in the shower thoughts, as you will. It has to be Sammy Callahan for MVP, right? He did hold the big effing belt for as long as just about anybody. He had a nice lengthy reign with that. Was it 10 months or 12 months, something like that? And he delivered in every single main event he was in. Especially one that comes to mind was in July with Keith Lee that ended on a more or less botched chair shot to the head as Keith Lee was supposed to put his hands up to deflect it or block it, but he did not, and he got walloped right in the face. And I think he got a concussion and he was bleeding and he had to be looked at by a nurse after the show. But every single time Callahan was in that ring, whether it was with Keith Lee or Low-Ki especially, he delivered. So I'm going to go with Sammy Callahan on that. And as far as 2018 is concerned, Myron Reed's going to blow up. I think he's going to win the Heritage Championship. He is far and away one of my favorite talents that they have going for them, and any sort of position they could put him in to succeed is a position that they should be putting him in. And that's on his list of things to do, that Heritage Championship. So I think he's going to accomplish that this year. And I think since it is Black History Month, let's get ACH that World Championship, except not tomorrow. I think Phoenix is going to hold on to it for now, but in the summer you might see a new champion, and he might be super.
Qumar, same question. MVP of AAW in 2017, and any fun predictions for 2018?
Oof. Derek has got some great work on that. It's tough to not echo those sentiments. Honestly, if you're the guy in the company, how are you not the MVP of sorts for AAW? So it has to be Sammy Callahan. Held the title, held the big effing belt for 10 months at least, and did everything, fought everybody pretty much to gain the attention of all the AAW fans and those that aren't his fans. The fact that he gave up that title to Phoenix won that title from him is a testament to building Phoenix up to a spot where he was probably under Penta El Zero Miedo. So I'll second the Callahan for 2017 MVP vote. As far as 2018 predictions, I would love to see ACH as the AAW Heavyweight Champion. I love ACH. I will go as far as to say as I'm a mark for ACH because I love what he did when I first saw him at AAW, and he continues to do that tenfold. So if that were to happen, I would be one happy guy. As far as predictions 2018, also, I would like to see some. We barely saw it scratch the surface, but I'd like to see what can be done to build the AAW Women's Championship. It was just obviously crowned in November. Jessica Havoc had a match in January, but I would like to see who else can challenge Havoc for that title. And I'd like to see that part of the AAW women's division, so to speak, expand and see where that goes in 2018.
Actually, you know what? I feel kind of remiss about that. That is my fault as the moderator of this podcast. Yeah, 2017, a women's championship crown, a women's crowned as champion in Jessica Havoc. Your guys' thoughts on that? It's one of those things where, look, at some point there are promotions. I mean, Shimmer and AAW have had a relationship for years. That the Shimmer title, not just in AAW but also part of Ring of Honor and other promotions, has always kind of been seen as that women's title. But now they have their own. What did you guys think of how they handled it, the talents that they brought in for it, and then ultimately it being Jessica Havoc?
In my opinion, I'm not a big fan of them using the women's championship as sort of bait to get people to go to the LaSalle shows. Like, if you look at the poster right now, it's got Allison Kay and Jessica Havoc all over it for tomorrow's show in LaSalle. And Kay's not going to be there. Instead, in her place is going to be Rosemary. But I think if you want to do it right, you need to put the women on the bigger shows where you're going to have 600, 700 people attending those. you need to get the most eyes you can on that division in a heartbeat. Basically, you want to get as many people rooting for these women as possible because the interest is there, the money is there, the women themselves are a draw. I'm not sure, Kumar, if you keep your ears open while the women are coming out, but people stand on their feet for those women. People cheered the announcement that they were getting a women's championship match last month at the Art of War show, and it's in right now. WWE is doing women's Royal Rumble. They're doing women's Elimination Chamber, women's Money in the Bank. The fact of the matter is, this draws more women to the product. This draws more women to the genre of entertainment that we call wrestling. And I don't think that that's a bad thing, not from a financial standpoint, not from any standpoint. And I hate to kind of go capitalist on you, like, oh, it draws money, like, oh, let's do it. No. But the fact of the matter is, along with that, as it becomes more popular, it becomes better. And I am a fan of women's wrestling. I'm a fan of what Dave Prazak does with Shimmer. I'm a fan of what Kevin Harvey does with Rise and even Gain in there and all the seminars. And I'm a fan of what Danny Daniels has done with his women's division thus far. But I do hope that they expand to maybe 2 women's matches per show if they're going to have an 11 or 12 match card on LaSalle, for instance, and just do that every month. Why not?
Hey, end of the day, this is a business, right? And that aspect can't be
There you go.
denied. So, Qumar, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to say AEW had been, I felt, a bit reliant on using the Shimmer Championship, given the relationship, given the company's relationship with Prazak. I feel that even though there's a lot of crossover in fan bases, given they they use the same building, there still needs to be a line of separation. You can't use a championship from a different promotion into your own promotion and just be reliant on that as getting over. You have to establish something within your own brand. And I think that's something that AEW had needed to do. They felt that we're just too reliant on using those opportunities during the Awesome weekends, the weekends when AEW would run on Friday and Shimmer the Saturday and Sunday in Berwyn. They were just relying, all right, we'll use those talents, give them extra dates, and not really putting together opportunities outside of, what Heidi Lutz had done. Like, she really was the main ingredient of AEW women's wrestling for many years. Now, with the title established in the brand, I would like to see them do something more with it. You have the opportunity. Other promotions in the Chicagoland area are doing it. AEW should have been doing it a while ago on their own, but it's good to see that they're doing it now. Better late than never, but let's build on that. Obviously, there's the industry as a whole through WWE is expanding to that area. AEW should be doing it ahead of that.
100% agree. So again, thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on this. And as always, we like to get our plugs out there. Qumar, I'll go with you first. Where can people talk to you about AAW or anything else?
Yeah, you can follow me on the Twitter at the Qumar Zaman, TheQumarZaman. I usually live tweet all the AAW results, so feel free to follow and or just use the hashtags and read along like everybody else does. But appreciate everybody that listens.
Yes, yeah, and I apologize, Qumar, for just probably butchering your name throughout this entire podcast.
Not the first, not the last.
Derek, what do you have coming up?
I am writing a new preview for AAW on the 17th of February. You can catch that on Pro Wrestling Ponderings. And if you want to say hi to me or follow me or even send me a death threat, my direct messages are open on Twitter at Death in Kosovo, the aptly titled DEATH. I have to spell it, don't I? INKOSOVO. So that's where I am.
I mean, you never know. People might be able to just glean that from you saying it. You never realize.
Yeah, get creative. Why not?
Exactly. But then, yes, thank you again for everyone that is listening. Please check out the shows that we've already done. There's going to be a lot of other promotions, but we already have up on the website as of this moment when you're listening to this, Ring of Honor and Progress Wrestling, both really great shows. And look forward to more coming out very soon as we look back at 2017. Thank you again to both of you, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you.